Hello, and welcome to another episode of eDiscovery Chicks, the podcast about all things eDiscovery and legal tech, hosted by two gals who can't figure out what they want to drink and have muscle problems and very clingy cats. Anyways, we're your hosts. That's Bree.
And that's Angie. I mean, first we had anger issues. Now we've got muscle problems and clingy cats. Wow. We
Turns out this is
sound.
therapy / eDiscovery.
Oh, man. I can't do another therapy episode. I feel like people might know too much about me now. Like, I don't know if that's good. It's going to drive away
No.
our listeners.
I love it. You're magnetic in all of your
Oh.
trauma.
And it's kind of like one of those things with like reality television that you can't stop watching it, even though you know you should, but you just can't.
Should we though?
Oh, man. And sometimes it's good to know there's people that are just a little bit more messed up than you. It's like, you know what? I thought I had it bad. Nah, I'm doing pretty damn good, actually.
I know. Or sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm a fucking idiot. And then I watch Tom Sandoval on Traders. And I'm like, no, actually, I'm doing fine.
Like, I'm a genius. It's fine. So this leads me to my next point. Today's episode, I am terrified of because it happens to be something that Angie is, well, I'm not terrified of it because she is absolutely amazing in it, but I'm also terrified of it because we learned so many things about our ChatGPT habits. I just don't know where this is going to go, folks. So we're going to go ahead and alert. You don't want to forward this to your mom or any of the coworkers that don't really love you for who you are until you've listened to the entire episode. I will just say this right now.
Oh, God. Yes, because we had a situation where someone forwarded one of our past episodes to their boss without having listened to the whole thing. And it happened to be the one where I divulged that I had asked ChatGPT, what does it mean to bleach your asshole? And do people actually do that? Hopefully that person's boss was cool.
I hope they were just bored by the first 5 minutes and they're like, nah, whatever, these girls.
Yeah, I hope it was either one extreme or the other. They were like, I'm going to bail after 5. Or they were like, actually, I dig this. All right, but I got to bring us back to the intro because we were both having like beverage problems at the top of this episode. So, Bree, what did you settle on drinking?
I have my usual vodka soda situation. Hopefully it's something that, doesn't cause my stomach too many issues because now that I'm of age, I realize I can't be exciting anymore. And this is very depressing when I go out to when I go out with younger people, number one. And then when I go out to like a nice restaurant and I'm like, ooh, I'm going to have some red wine and then I'm going to have an old fashioned and then I'm going to have an espresso martini. And then I'm like, oh, why did I do that? I forgot. So we're sticking with the vodka soda tonight.
Oh, love.
Well, what do you have going on over there? You were having some drama with your canned whatnots.
I was having some drama. Okay, so there are these things, they're like Tip Top canned cocktails, whatever. So I realized I've only ever drank them a couple beverages into the evening when like I'm not as discerning, right? So I tried to just like go into that today and I was like, this is actually like quite trash. So I am now just sipping on some sipping tequila because it does not bug my stomach. I had to go ahead.
That's super hardcore. I mean, just sipping tequila. So you're doing tequila shots, essentially.
No, it's like an añejo.
Okay.
It's very nice tequila. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You're just too hot. Bree's vigorously fanning herself out of nowhere.
Okay, this is not videotaped for a reason. You just throw me under the premenopausal bus. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Ooh, maybe we've already started sharing too much and the episode hasn't even started.
No. We're also like dealing with some muscle fatigue right now. I'm going into training for my half. So yesterday I did 9.7 miles at a progressive pace. So my last mile was at a 7-minute, 25-minute mile. And I am dying today. I am so tired. I've eaten so many off-brand Cheetos. I'm just not thriving. I feel like my brain just isn't work. My brain's like, nah, bitch, you did too much yesterday. We done?
Oh, man. My brain feels that way, but certainly not because I did anything about a mile. I just have way too many things on my plate all at the same time that I'm trying to make sense out of.
Bringing it full circle to eDiscovery, I have heard people talk about AI validation as it's like at the end of it, you run a validation test and it's sort of the equivalent of getting to the airport. And it doesn't really matter how you got there. It's like the end result proves that you did it okay, right? It doesn't matter if you took the train or a bus or a car. There are all kinds of inefficient ways to do it. But if you end up at the airport at the right time with all your paperwork or whatever, it signifies that like you did the right thing.
Whereas if you land up in the wrong state, but the right city, it could lend itself to thinking that your prompting initially was a little off and you rode that bus way too long.
In case you're wondering what we're alluding to, this did happen to Brie. Did you fly to the
Uh,
wrong Des Moines or something?
no, I went to the wrong Columbus. So,
Oh.
yeah, I still cannot believe all of the little signs that I should have been paying attention to that I wasn't paying attention to. It's kind of like when you're prompting and you're like, "I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be true. Let me give it another prompt. Okay, let me give it another prompt." And all of a sudden you're so far away from where you really intended to be. You're like, "Oh damn, we got to start all over again."
Like, oh no, we've done the
um
wrong thing.
so I'm sure that you guessed what we're talking about today, not because we've done a really poor job of introducing the topic, but we are talking about how to boss around our LLMs today. Angie is going to school us a bit. I'm going to chime in with like my own 2 cents here and there. But why don't you get us started, Angie, and tell us why this even matters and where are we going with this anyway?
This is one of my favorite topics. And I feel like the market is a little, I'll say this, like, I feel like the market is a little bit saturated with AI hype. And I've actually written an article about how obnoxious it is. So now I'm just going to be part of the problem. But no, what we are hoping to do in today's episode is to give you, our beloved listeners, a practical playbook for getting better outputs out of any LLM. This is designed as a platform agnostic episode. And so you should be able to use this with your Claude or your Gemini or your ChatGPT or whatever your drug of choice is.
And when we
Um,
say LLM, we
oh, thank you.
mean
We mean a large language model. So these are the types of AI tools where you go in, there's a prompt box. It's very scary because it's an entire world of things. You type in, whatever, a prompt, and then it generates output. In this episode, we are going to give you 5 concrete tips that you can use today to start bossing around your LLM. And then we're going to walk you through how to create a custom bot and then give you 3 use cases.
And I want to just hone in on the fact that this is a little different from the norm, I think, in terms of an e-discovery show or topic, because this is about LLMs generally. We're not talking about e-discovery software. We're not talking about document review. We're not talking about early case assessment. We're not talking about workflow management, contract analysis, all those things that are also AI or involve LLMs. We're simply talking about this in a generic nature. However, you can apply these principles to all of the things I just mentioned as well.
Absolutely. And we are going to have an episode later in this season where we talk explicitly about e-discovery AI. When we were planning, we were like, these are just 2 entirely different beasts. And so we should tackle them separately. Okay, let's start. Tip number 1 of 5. You're going for output, not the topic. So, one of the most common failure modes that I see with folks who really struggle to use an LLM is that people prompt with the topic and then get shocked when they get a generic essay. My tip here is specify the output. What do you want delivered and in what shape? Because the model will fill any ambiguity with vibes. So, if you don't define what is done or what you really are looking for, you're going to get word salad instead of a work product that you actually want to use. So, what I mean by this is if you want something broken down into multi level bullet points, say so. Otherwise, it might generate a whole essay and kind of like go off into left field.
Yeah, and you can make it repeat the assignment before it gets started. Thank you, Bree. I hear what you're saying, and this is what I'm about to do for you. And if what you're hearing or seeing is not exactly what you're looking for, that's a great indicator that you need to start over. Don't take that plane to the wrong city or state.
Yeah, that is an indicator that you are going to very confidently end up in the wrong Columbus.
Mhm.
So a couple of my favorites are I love the multi-level bullet points. I love asking it to return something as a table and I'll list the columns that I want. For example, my if I want a cost benefit analysis, I might say, give me columns for goal, recommendation, trade-offs, risk, your confidence, next steps. Or I might ask it for, a 120-word email with a subject line and a clear ask in the first or last sentence. So I try to be pretty explicit with what I want as my end product because it really helps refine my interaction with the AI.
I think it's really important to think about who's the receiving audience to this. Are you putting together something that's for an executive? Are you putting together something that's for your own use? Are you putting together something that's a letter to your best friend? Like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Who's receiving this in the end will determine the format that you want it to be. If I'm talking to an executive, give me bullet point, high level summary topics. If I'm giving it to my best friend, I'm like, add some zest, some sass, and make it martini heavy. There's going to be a different prompt for a different reason, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that tip of including your audience as part of it because it will help the LLM calibrate your results. So I want to add one point about this too is that the format of your output, whether you want a table or an email or multi level bullets or what have you, it's not aesthetics, it's control. Because you want something from the LLM. You want it to clarify your thinking. You want it to refine your prose. You want it to do something. And so that output, like it's not just make it pretty, it's make it usable for me. That's tip number one. All right. So tip number two. Assign your LLM a role and a rubric. Because once you've defined the deliverable, the next step is telling the model who it is and how it's being graded. A role will tell the AI what it's supposed to do. You're an editor, you're a lawyer, you are my best friend, you are a critical thinker, whatever it is. It tells the AI what hat to put on for this interaction. And then a rubric tells the AI how to grade its responses. So, for example, you could tell your AI, you're a skeptical editor. Grade this piece on a scale of 1 to 10 for clarity, specificity, logic, and persuasiveness. Then rewrite it, give me red lines to get it to a 9 or a 10 on that scale.
I love the idea of, okay, pretend you're this person and now read this and what do you consider? And this is the reason why I love this. I am a person, when I if you listen to the show, I know this is going to be shocking. I happen to be very blunt. So
Wait, what?
I know it's so weird. I have also been accused of being a little like rough around the edges because I'm not going to waste time. I'm an efficient person. I don't like to play shenanigans or games. We're just going to get down to business, right? So I have frequently in my lifetime been accused of not being soft enough. Like, hey, Angie, how's your day? How was your weekend? How's your kids? Oh my God, it's so good to see you. So, how are we coming on that project? No, I'm not that person. I'm the person that's like, Angie, status, please.
I'm looking at you like, oh, please don't be that person. First of all, it'd be fucking weird because you're not that person. And secondly, whenever people do that to me, I'm worried about a bait and switch.
Yes. Well, I can't. If you do that to me, I can't trust you already. I'm like, okay. First of all, we can't be friends, so that's that's noted. But I'm constantly asking through ChatGPT to grade me, quote unquote. Hey, this is what I'm gonna say. Pretend that you are this type of recipient. How does that come across? Or please rephrase this in a way that's more professional, or that's softer, or that's less combative. Like these are things that I would run across my own conversation. But what are your thoughts
Don't lie,
about
Brie. You're asking your LLMs what animal you would be.
this is also true. I may or may not have texted Angie late at night at some point going, "Oh my God, I'm a red-tailed hawk. What is going on?" And she's like, "I'm sorry, hi. Are you okay?"
I was like, what did
Um,
you ask it? I need to know.
well, ask ChatGPT if you were an animal, what you should be. And if you said, "I also am on the eDiscovery Checks podcast as a host," it's gonna make you a bird, okay? So, me and
Okay.
Angie are both birds, apparently.
Mine was like, you're either a raven or an octopus. And I was like, the fuck? An
I don't e
octopus?
I don't even remember what my other ones were because I was so traumatized by being like the red-tailed hawk, the family destroyer of all nests across America.
Those are badass birds. You see who your celebrity parents are, or what kind of bird you'd be. I also love to give it a measurable rubric like word count, bullets, or structure, or one that's qualitative. So clarity, persuasiveness, tone, logical rigor. These are things that I ask my ChatGPT to grade me on. And I often ask it, grade it on a scale of 1 to 10. And then for anything less than an 8, give me 5 ways to boost it to a 9 or a 10. So then it gives me, it like assesses my piece critically and then will help me improve it. Now, one great way to sort of check if this is actually doing a good job is to ask it to do these things in an area that you are, in fact, an expert in. Because sometimes you'll realize that the results aren't as rigorous or airtight as you would like them to be. I actually had this happen to me today. I'm writing a piece about whether your content is privileged if you put it into AI. I kind of dumped my miscellaneous random thoughts into our internal chat GPT at work and was like, I don't know, help me organize these. Like, what do you think the logical through line is? And tell me if I'm missing anything. And it sort of gave me this very mushy response that like wasn't correct about the standards for privilege and failed to assess the cases that I gave it. And I was like, oh, damn it, never mind. But that said, like I will write that piece from scratch and then I will plug it back into the LLM and say, you are a professional editor. Edit this for persuasion, clarity, grammar or usage or punctuation errors and redline it for me. So, not a perfect system, but like can get you where you want to go faster anyway.
You know who I envy so much in this world are people like my husband who literally gets pleasure from psyching out ChatGPT.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you so much for that tee up because my tip number 3 is to make it earn its confidence. Surface the assumptions, the unknowns, the refusals, the questions, all of these things. Our dear beloved friend, soon to be a guest on this podcast, Ralph Losey, has an amazing article about how to cross examine your AI that is well worth a read. And don't you just plug it into your AI and ask it to summarize it. No, no, this one is worth the full read, I promise. This is the thing that makes everyone distrust their LLMs is they are so confidently dumb sometimes. And they are so confidently wrong. And so tip number 3 is to make it earn its confidence by forcing it to surface all the underlying logic. Because the model will happily paper over any gaps unless you demand it show you where the floor is weak. Think about this like your second grade teacher forcing you to prove your work and do long division, which I don't even fucking think I could do anymore. Like,
What
if
is
my
that?
life was on the line, I don't think I could do long division. But this is sort of the modern day equivalent of showing your work. Okay, so one of the things about LLMs, and this again, we are not talking about eDiscovery software, which is middleware between the LLM and the output. We are talking about like the raw LLMs. I always tell it if you can't support a claim, write not supported instead of guessing. And then I also ask it if you're making any assumptions, if there is ambiguity here. I always make it like call that out in its response so that I know exactly where I need to probe. And then I will also have it sometimes, like, depending on what I'm doing, if I'm using it as an ideator, I'm being like, I've got this idea. Is this like nuts or is this brilliant? And it's always like, it's very mid, queen. But I love telling it, ask me 5 clarifying questions before you respond to me, because that will surface any like assumptions in my own train of thought. It will surface any weakness in my own logic. And it really helps me refine my thinking before I actually start engaging with the LLM and asking it to produce anything.
So I know I've been talking about how much I love to use AI to kind of hone in on my own attitude problems or ways of expressing myself that maybe are my natural expressions are not as helpful to the rest of society. But, one thing that really annoys the crap out of me about AI is it has this tendency to like comment on stuff like, "Oh, that was a great idea." I'm like, "Really? Really? Was it great?" Or do you just say that to everyone? When you get those clarifying questions, do you ever ignore them and like push for an answer anyway? Like
Yes.
how do you deal with
Well, first of all, sometimes like it'll give me an answer like, "Oh my god, so insightful." And I'm like, "Don't coddle me." And it's like, "Okay."
be mean to me? That's all I know.
I'm like, "No." And then it's mean to me and I'm like, "Tell me more." No. Um, no, I do ignore the clarifying questions sometimes because sometimes the questions are really good. And sometimes I'm like, this is not relevant. I'll give you an example. So today I asked it, writing this piece about privilege, and I like run it through my AI, and it's like, asks me a question about, well, would it matter if it was handwritten versus non-handwritten? And I was like, that's like just not even within we're not even playing the same game here. That is so far afield. So I will ignore questions if I don't think that they're going to further the discussion. And sometimes it'll be like, answer these 5 questions. And I'll say, oh, well, I'm not going to do that. Can you ask me 5 more? But I do tell it to be mean to me, where because it has this, it wants to please you and be really nice to you and congratulatory. And sometimes I'm like, no, that was a terrible idea. Tell me that was a terrible idea.
I just want to tell me the truth. Like, don't try to pepper me with,
Yeah,
compliments and whatnots.
yeah. Like if I needed, some unsolicited and inappropriate compliments, I'd go to my mom and exploit her guilt for treating
No.
treating
Well,
me the way she
that is
does.
not at all how it would happen in my life.
Yeah,
It'd be the
no, no.
opposite.
But
Mm.
with from my AI, I want a sparring partner.
Yeah.
So sometimes I will bake that to forestall that. Sometimes I'll bake that into my original prompt where I'll tell it, you are my sparring partner. Push back on my weaknesses. Tell me where I'm wrong. Broaden my thinking. Open my mind on this topic. And sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it's not. And like one thing I've been doing lately that actually has been helpful is instead of having the LLM push back on me, I'll have it cite articles and link to articles that challenge my thinking on that topic. So instead of the LLM giving me its sort of varnished and glossy answer, I'll have it point me to the real experts.
I like that idea. As much as we like to play tough guy, I will say I asked ChatGPT, I am a co-founder and a co-host on the eDiscovery Chicks podcast. What would you say that we need to change about our branding? And I got all
Ooh,
kinds of negative feedback. And I was like, bitch, you better step off. Like,
check
I was
yourself,
so offended.
dumb robot.
Like, I do not agree.
I do
Um,
not.
so it's funny the things that we have a tolerance for hearing criticism on, and then the things that we do not want to hear your opinion.
Oh, well, I asked it if I should get bangs, and it was like, "Honey, no."
No, ma'am.
It actually, I think its response to me was, "Are you in crisis?" Like, "No. No, I just, I've been watching the Taylor Swift Eras Tour documentary, and it's got me feeling some kinda way." And it was like, "Yeah, well, her hair's texture is completely different than yours, so I would
Oh my
reconsider."
goodness.
Like,
Are
wow,
you
way
in
to tell me
crisis?
I have weak ass hair. Okay, tip number 4. Talk it out. One of the practical blockers I hear from people is they will underbrief their LLM because typing feels like work, because it is. And so this tip is use dictation. Talk to the model because you naturally include more context when you speak, and the transcript is shockingly accurate, actually, for a lot of these LLMs. This matters because better context often beats clever phrasing. I will talk to my chat GPT as if it is a person sometimes. For example, this is an actual thing that I asked ChatGPT by dictating it. Here's what I said. Okay, I'm really bothered by something because in Pacific Rim at the beginning, they say they're just going to scrap the Jaeger program because they're trying to go to coastal walls or whatever. But I really don't understand the material or construction techniques that they could possibly use that would stop a kaiju. Can you please explain that to me? And it generated a whole response. And I responded with, so what are the Jaegers even made out of that they can like withstand punches from kaiju? I'm not going to read you the rest of my discussion, but my point is this. When you dictate to your LLM, you are more often to have a conversation that feels more real versus typing, which feels there's a kind of an extra barrier to the interface when you're typing. So I highly recommend talking it out because you will often just include more that way than you would if you just typed.
And I will add in, after you voice dump, you should tell it to turn your ramble into a clean prompt with a role, output format, constraints, and questions. Because when you see that prompt, you might be able to pick up on little things like, this is not Ohio, this is Georgia. So
Details,
you can
details.
save yourself a lot of heartache in the very beginning just by seeing what that prompt construction is to make sure it's along the same lines of what you're looking for.
Yes. So a couple of ways that I use this. I will go into my chat GPT, ramble wildly, and then say, that was a messy brain dump. Please rewrite that into a clean prompt with role, deliverable, etc. Or I will ask it, turn my ramble into a 6 bullet summary or a 3-step plan or a draft email. Or I'll say, summarize what I said in one sentence so I can paste it into Slack. What you're basically doing is you're giving it ramble, real words, real speech, and asking it to refine it for you, which is something that LLMs are uniquely good at because their whole shtick is language. So when you're plugging language in and asking the LLM to make your language better, as opposed to generating a whole new idea, that's its shtick.
When you gave me this advice some time ago, Angie, you were like, you should ask ChatGPT how to ask it what you need. And I'm like, what? This sounds super counterintuitive. What do you mean?
So meta.
But the truth is like, hey, I'm looking for this. How would I ask you for that? And ChatGPT actually has some answers as to how you would do that.
And that ties really elegantly back into something that you said at the beginning of this episode, which is you should ask your LLM to repeat the assignment before it generates an output to make sure that you're getting the results that you want.
Hmm.
One thing I'll also say about this is I feel that when I dictate to my LLM, it changes the way that I think. I'm thinking less linearly. I'm thinking more kind of like wild constellation of thoughts that I'm just kind of verbally diarrheaing into my LLM. But I feel like it helps me just be more creative, think outside the box and feel a little bit less constrained. Because when I'm typing in a prompt box, I'm far more likely to think in bullet points or, well, I must get my topic sentence correct, or whatever. And when I'm dictating, it's just sort of a free for all. And often that's better. That brings us to tip 5, chunk it. Call it chunking because when I'm using an LLM, I often ask for checkpoints, not one-shot miracles. So what I like to do is if I'm telling the LLM, look, here's where I want to get to. I'm trying to draft a 1,200-word blog post about X. Here's what I want. Here's the workflow that I want to get there. I want a plan. I want to outline. Then I want to draft. And then I want your critique. For right now, I just want a plan. So we're going to ideate until I tell you we're moving to the next phase. That way you catch misunderstandings early. Because if you've ever plugged in a prompt to an LLM and had it just like go, run, fly, whatever, produce a big, long expose on something, and then thought, that's really not what I wanted. We're not there yet. This tip is for you because one shot prompting invites the model to confidently fill in gaps you didn't even know that you left.
So when we're talking about chunking it, it kind of reminds me of Boolean searching, which I know you're probably rolling your eyes at me at this point, Angie, like when I keep talking about
Me?
Boolean searching,
No.
but
I love
that's
a
the
Boolean. My
that's the
love
closest
language.
thing that I can relate this to professionally. And when I'm thinking about that, I'm like, well, you can't ask for everything all at once because you're going to confuse the fuck out of like whatever search engine you're using. And it's too compound. Like it's not going to be able to do all of that all at once. So you need to like break it down in pieces so you can specifically get to the root of the matter. But I am always questioning, like where's the best part to make that break? Where's the best time to like, here's a chunk, there's a chunk, here's another chunk, and we're going to put it all together and I'll get exactly the desired results, Because
Mm.
AI and LLMs are like shocking me all the time. And I'll chunk things together that I thought were originally impossible. And I'm like, well, actually, that's exactly what I was looking for. Why are you laughing at me?
Every time you say chunk now, it's funny to me.
Well, because that word is messed up. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say,
Yeah, I regret that verbiage choice. It's like moist,
I'm
we're
like
just like,
so
why?
off. Well, it
You're like,
makes me want to spew chunks. That's what I think about.
I was thinking about it. I don't know why this is what occurred to me, but I can make 2 types of cookies. That's it, right? One of them is a chocolate chunk shortbread, and you basically have to like take a hammer to a big thing of chocolate and break it up into these really big pieces. Because of course the cookies I would know how to make involve a tool. Anyways, that's what I was thinking of when I said chunk.
Maybe not the best word, but I get it. Like we're trying to break it up in pieces, so we'll say. So, what's the best way to know when to break it up in pieces? That's what I'm trying to ask you as
Ooh.
the AI expert, because I'm constantly amazed at the compound things that AI can do. And sometimes, me being an older person, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's all of us, but sometimes I underestimate the power of what AI can do in a compound way. And then other times I'm like, yeah, that was too much for you. I'm going to have to break this up a little bit. Is there a good rule
Oh,
of
sweet
thumb?
summer child.
Right. Is there a good rule of thumb I should be following here?
Yes. So for me, it depends on the output. But generally, if you're looking for written work product at the end of it, I like to chunk it into ideation, planning, drafting, and refinement. And what I mean by that is if you are trying to draft, let's say, thought leadership or an email, I want to start with the planning. What's the end goal here? Who am I speaking to? What is my end point? Maybe I need to do some pre-work about this and refine my thinking, which that I classify as sort of a different bucket. But you're planning, and then I want some sort of an outline, right? Uh, Give me like the main points of this thought leadership. Draft it for me in multi-level bullet points, or like give me a first draft of the email, and then I want to refine. I want to edit for clarity, for logical rigor, for persuasiveness, for tone. Whatever my goal is, that's how I think about it. So we've got plan, outline/draft, and then refine. For ideating, I like to spew random thoughts, get interviewed by my LLM. So I will say, you are an expert in, whatever the field is. You are a legal expert. Interview me about the consequences of privilege within a public facing, non enterprise LLM system, because I want it to challenge me. I often ask it to assume the persona of some interviewers. One of my favorites is asking it to interview me a la Mel Robbins. And I'll have it, it will just ask me these like really sort of insightful questions, which is really fun. So I like that part, like the stress testing, the logic building, the argument building part. And then at the end, I like it to give me a dossier. Tell me what we've discussed. What's my logical through line? What are the strengths of my argument? What are the weaknesses? Where are some areas that I should explore? And then I want it to give me next steps where I'm like, all right, here's what I think my thinking is. What else should I read to refine my thinking? So basically, I think that the through line between each of these is there's sort of a madman brainstorming phase with a drafting period and then a refinement period for each of them. That's how I think about it anyway.
I love that. At the very beginning of this episode, you made a promise that you were going to talk about these bots. And I have some questions because
Oh,
when I hear bots, it makes me think about a lot of things, but I'm confused because I'm wondering if it's kind of like agents. Is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about
mm.
robots? Like, where are we going with this? Like, I need to understand.
Okay, so not agents. This is not agentic AI. These will live within your LLM. You can do this on most enterprise grade systems, so ones that live behind your firewall. And you can also do it in a lot of the public facing ones, in your Claude, in your ChatGPT, in your Gemini, what have you. But a custom bot is basically your manager speak saved as a default. So the model behaves consistently every time. Because one of the biggest frustrations I hear from folks using LLMs is inconsistency and drift, not the raw capability of the algorithm. And so, I found myself at one point asking, why am I retyping the same instructions and giving my model the same constraints every single time? And that led me to discover these custom bots. So, a bot is basically default. It's your role, it's your rubric, it's your output format, it's your confidence rules, optional reference material, optional tools. That's kind of the whole sandwich. So,
Is if for me to say, like, it's a template, I mean, because I'm trying to relate it to, like, an e-discovery workflow, right? Because I know that's what a lot of our listeners and slash myself is used to.
yeah.
It to say that it's kind of like a template, when we create templates to do repeatable things over and over and over again, so we don't have to repeat the administrative task associated with fill in the blank. Is that kind of where you're going with this?
It's totally analogous to that. So, I'll give you some examples of bots that I use almost every day. So I have an ideator bot into which I've built in things like push back on me, be mean to me, stress test my logic, tell me where my arguments are weak. I've got all these things built in on the back end. Other bots that I've developed, or I've got a professional editor one where I have built in, use Strunk White's elements of style, Garner's principles of legal usage. Do not commit any spelling or usage errors, omit the passive voice, favor descriptive verbs over adverbs. I've got all these things built in on the back end. I've got an email drafter bot, all these things, and they're quite simple to create. And here's like a hack. You can just ask your LLM, tell it, hey, I want to create this bot. Can you interview me to figure out what I actually want out of my bot and then generate instructions and walk me through it like a tutorial? And it will do that for you. And it's amazing. You don't even have to think about what you really want. You just get prompted to think about it. And then the LLM will give you the output that you need to create that bot.
If the bot's job is, quote unquote, do everything, is it basically guaranteed to do nothing well then?
I think so. So I like having bots for very specific, very discrete tasks. And let me give you 3 bots that I use on a pretty regularly. The first bot is decision support. So this is for when your brain is spinning and you need structure, not more options or opinions. And it matters because a lot of my decisions or my strategic calls and my thought work will stall on unspoken trade-offs, missing criteria, or an ill-defined goal. So when I'm using this bot, I will often, and it's set up on the back end to emulate a high-level executive at a privately held eDiscovery company, go figure, right? Because that's where I work. But if I'm thinking about something strategically, I will ask it to give me the option, plus the pros, cons, risks, costs, time, and recommendations. And it will help me really refine my thinking and make it more rigorous by forcing me to kind of go through that exercise. That's the first spot that I use. And I highly recommend that if you're in any kind of a leadership role. Spot number 2, I've got an email drafter. This is pretty baseline and something that anybody could use. Not because people can't write, but because we spend way too much time trying to draft the perfect email, and it's just simply not the highest and best use of our time, of anybody's time. The speed of drafting is really great when you're using a custom bot, but the clarity and the tone control are your real payoffs. For mine, I've got a default output that is I want a subject line plus an email body plus a shorter version plus a 1-sentence ask at the beginning of the email. I try to bluff or bottom line up front all of my emails. And so I have my bot, my email drafting bot. And so whenever I dump things into that bot, it generates an email in the format that I want and the tone that I want. Third bot that I use is like a meeting capture bot, basically. I absolutely love this. So for most of my meetings that I'm in, I will have AI create a transcript. And then if it's an important meeting or something that I want to refer back to later, I will then plug that meeting transcript into my custom bot. And from there, it will give me bullet points of the key things that were discussed, the decisions that were made, and assign any action items to me or to other people. And then I know who I need to follow up with and when. So those are the 3 bots that I use a lot: my decision support bot, my email drafter bot, and my meeting capture bot.
Those are genius. And I feel like what you just shared is so rich in content and helpfulness. I feel like we should do like another episode on getting more involved into bots and like who's using what for what. I mean, like it's very, very interesting to me because some of them I would never have thought of, some of them I would. There's other things I can think of that would be helpful for me. Anyway, I think that's great. And Angie, I really appreciate you sharing your expertise and all of your experience with us because you certainly are one that's taken this to the next level. Thank you so much, Angie, for sharing. You've definitely given me things to think about and challenged me in ways that I need to be challenged. And I hope that that's been the same for our listeners.
Well, I really hope so too. And I love talking about this stuff. I think one of my main takeaways for anybody listening to this episode is just go get reps, right? You don't have to be perfect at it. You don't have to be, amazing. Just go get reps. Go try, go play. Approach your LLM with a childlike sense of play. Obviously don't put anything privileged or confidential in there, but just kind of mess around. It's fun. And you might be surprised by the output that you get. So,
I like that advice.
all right. Well, thank you, folks. That's all the time we have for today. And if your prompts are about to get bossier, our work here is done. Join the flock by following us on LinkedIn and Instagram, and check out our website, eDiscoveryChicks.com. If this episode saved you even 5 minutes of back and forth with your AI intern, share it with your people, leave us a review, or tag us on socials. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode, because we'll be back with more ways to make robots useful without letting them run the place. Bye.
Bye. The views we've expressed today are the eDiscovery Chicks views and don't necessarily represent the views of our employers, partners, or clients. The podcast is available solely for educational purposes to provide general information about eDiscovery principles and not to provide legal advice to any specific situation. It is not a substitute for legal advice from a lawyer you retained or who has agreed to represent you.